So tonight's conversation will be moderated by Kim Feeney-London. Kim has multiple roles with us at SUNY Adirondack, and we're very fortunate to have her on our team. Oh, computer. Kim currently holds multiple roles with us. She teaches undergraduate economics and personal finance courses. She leads our Startup 80K Entrepreneur Training Program, which is an 8-week course, typically on Tuesdays for about 2 hours an evening, in which we get a cohort of entrepreneurs ready to start their business or realize that they have a little bit more work to do on their business plan first. Kim brings in content experts once a week to be able to talk to those students about getting their business started. She also assists with program development in the Office of Business Central and oversees the campus farm, which sells to our culinary school, dining hall, as well as the food pantry on campus. Kim has a degree in economics from Cornell University and a master's in food policy and applied nutrition from Tufts. Kim has had a long career in food, hospitality, and agriculture, and currently sits on the board of directors for Pitney Meadows Community Farm and is involved with the local farm to school initiatives. So without further ado, I'm going to totally turn it over to Kim.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate that. Welcome, everybody. I am really excited to talk to you tonight about ways our local farmers, local food security experts, nonprofit farms, agricultural business experts, food productions are working on pivoting or may have shifted in what is this now, week 6 of a new normal here that we've called the COVID-19 pandemic, the new normal we've been working on. And so we want to just discuss what they see is happening, what are these new programs, how they might have shifted. So I'm going to introduce our panelists tonight. We have Robert Arnold from Pleasant Valley Farm and Smart Farm Innovations. He was born and raised in a small local farm, organic farm in Argyle, Pleasant Valley Farm, and spent most of his childhood and early adult life being immersed in what it takes to run a small farm, weeding, running a tractor, doing the finances. And he took that experience as well as his technical experience, put it all together, in computer sciences, and has a new company that he calls Smart Farm Innovations, and uses that technical training. He started it while still in college, and his business focuses on helping farms with Wi-Fi, remote monitoring, ordering. He is responsible for the online ordering system that Pleasant Valley Farm has been using in the last couple of weeks and how they have shifted. So welcome, Robert. We really appreciate having you tonight. He's also a graduate of SUNY Adirondack, so thank you for joining us. Next up, you give us a little wave so people know who we are. We're up there. Okay, thank you. Next, we have Dayton Maxwell. He is from Cornell Extension in the Capital area, agricultural and horticulture program. He's based out of the Washington County office and serves growers and producers in Albany, Columbia, Greene, Rensselaer, Schenectady, and Washington County. Works with farmers, agribusinesses, and industry leaders within that area in New York State to provide expertise in agricultural lending and ag education. He previously worked at the USDA and as a professor of agricultural business at SUNY Cobleskill. Brings us a lot of expertise and working with a lot of farmers. Dayton, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Okay, and last we have Marissa Peck. She's the food assessment coordinator at Capital Roots in Troy. She started with Capital Roots as AmeriCorps Vista in 2014, and she's the coordinator of the Greater Capital Region Food System Assessment. It's looking at an 11 counties in the Greater Capital Region on food production, processing, and distribution of food, and how we can create more food resiliency in the capital area and deal with food insecurity. So a lot of great things. They run a nonprofit food hub out of Troy, operate 55 community gardens, a year-round youth job training program. They have a farm store out of their offices. They do 2 mobile markets. And really her passion for food justice and strengthening the food shed and connecting farmers in the capital region to people that need the fresh food the most. She's also on the board of directors of the Farmers Market Federation of New York. So welcome, Marissa. We're really excited to have you here tonight. And we've all heard a lot about food and food supply lately in the news. Good news about people starting more backyard and victory gardens and supporting local food, as well as, some not so good news about dairy farmers dumping milk and onion farmers plowing under, fields of to take onions and meat processing closing. So a lot of different information right now during this time, a little bit of uncertainty. So for all of our panelists, what are you working on now? And how has that been a pivot for you and your farm or your farmers you work with? We'll start with you, Robert, then we'll go Robert, Dayton, and then Marissa, and we'll see what are you working on now?
Well, right now we're kind of in the next round of getting all of our company customers putting their orders in for this Saturday. We're actually kind of pivoting again because we're moving our home delivery day to Thursday instead of Saturday, kind of replacing a market in midweek that we have taken a leave of absence for, dealing with all this extra stuff. But that's kind of the thick of it. Usually each week we send out messages to the customers, let them know all the updates, the changes. It's a lot of communication. And then checking all the orders, making sure anything we've changed is making it working properly, keeping an eye on inventory levels and making sure we didn't make a mistake there.
And you guys haven't had a delivery service, right? And now you are delivering? How has that been going?
I think the last time we've really done any kind of serious orders was 20 to 30 years ago. There was some markets that had some weather issues, and it was before markets even went into October, November, and we did a special Thanksgiving weekend order. And I think everything back then was over the phone. The internet really didn't exist. And it was insane, and we kind of vowed to never do it again. So this was kind of well, let's see what happens. It was difficult before internet, but maybe it'll be better now. But we have done, each year we do small amounts of like strawberry deliveries to like a set of like a couple dozen customers. So.
Okay, and how many deliveries are you doing a week now?
Well, it seems like it varies a little bit. We have about 250 customers signed up to our online platform, and we usually experience somewhere between 125 to 140 orders a week. Out of that, a lot of people are every other week. Some were just there to kind of view. I know for sure a few customers just wanted to see what we had at the farmers markets, and they could view it in our online store. So things get used in ways you don't expect.
Sure.
We delivered a maximum of 71 deliveries to homes 2 weeks ago. Last week was 56.
Okay. Great. Well, that's a new avenue for you, and you're using different software, right, to enable the online store.
Yeah, we're using Local Line. There's a bunch of different options out there, all kind of different features depending on how you want to offer stuff. But Local Line's been working for us, and a lot of these software platforms have just been lambasted with too many people using them. Local Line said that they saw an increase of 2,600% in usage.
Wow. Okay. So a lot more people are buying or ordering ahead and still supporting you at the farmers markets.
Yeah. Our markets have also seen increase in sales. I think both in quantity and specifically Glens Falls in number of people. Just tons of people coming out that want fresh food and produce from vendors in a safe location.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. Thank you, Robert. We'll come back to you. Dayton, what have you been working on, and what are some of the farms you work with working on as they're pivoting now?
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Kim. So my program year with Extension really starts out for probably about the first 3.5 to 4 months working with dairy farmers. And I spent a lot of time working on Cornell's Dairy Farm Business Summary, which is a benchmarking program where they compare themselves to themselves and also the industry. And it really just gives them a lot of good, valuable information. I would say going into this year, I was working with them on a lot of forward planning because the industry looked like it was going to be, for commercial dairymen, looked like it was going to be a good year. And now we've kind of fallen back to budgeting and basically monthly budgeting and seeing where the cash losses are going to be, and then asking the question, how are we going to come up with the the cash loss, how we're going to get through the year, basically. So we kind of went from a positive outlook, forward thinking, to now let's get through this year and not lose too much equity. So that's kind of, I guess, the biggest pivot for me. I've had a couple people ask about refinancing because interest rates have been, lower, and worked on some of those. Had a couple farmers think about getting out of businesses because, their business is at that stage in the business life cycle where they maybe should get out, and they don't want to erode any more equity. They can't afford another hit in their equity. So, so that's, I guess, the pivot for me has been long range back to monthly.
Back to monthly. I mean, but that cash, during crises like this, I mean, you want to have cash on, better cash flow, where the money's coming in. You want to look at it almost weekly, monthly, to kind of get a better feel for what you need to, like you said, even operate or keep the lights on or keep the, cows milked and keep going.
Right.
Have you found that lenders have been amenable to dairy farmers, or?
Yeah. So, in conversations with my colleagues and peers, it appears that lenders are going to be very willing to offer some type of programs where they can, and this isn't fact, I haven't talked to the lenders directly, but I've talked to my colleagues, and they seem to think that lenders are going to be willing to offer interest only or some sort of deferment programs to help the farmers get through this time. Yeah. And just thinking, one other thing I've been working on is the Paycheck Protection Program. So farmers have been applying for that, and it's been quite substantial for some of them to help run the business. So.
Right, and sure, to keep the employees on, and to keep some of the utilities, and hopefully with this new round of funding, more small businesses, now that they've included farmers, and they can take advantage of that.
Right.
Great. Okay, and we'll circle back with you in a little bit later. Thank you, Dayton. And
Sure.
Marissa, can you talk about what you've been working on at Capital Roots, and how might that have been a pivot or new ways or new opportunities you've seen down there?
Yeah, so Capital Roots is fully operational with our essential food access services. Right now we're running our mobile markets, our market at our food hub at the Urban Growth Center in Troy, and also our Healthy Stores program, which distributes produce to small retail markets and corner stores across Albany, Schenectady, and Rensselaer counties. We're also getting our community gardener set up and managing our urban farm. But most of our work is happening with our essential food access services, selling low-cost produce to residents, just as how we've been operating over the past few years. And we're seeing a big increase in demand, not just in numbers of customers, but also in order size. So our mobile markets make 34 stops across 7 municipalities throughout the week. And then our Urban Growth Center market has brought on more local product. We're selling local eggs and cheese and bread, whereas before we just were mainly selling produce. And we are in the midst also of planning farmer outreach, checking in with our growers from last year, and reaching out to new farmers that we haven't worked with before, but maybe who've donated to our Squash Hunger program, to just see how they're doing and how we can plan to work with them over the next few months. And then the last thing I'll say is all of our programs have really shifted to maintain really high levels of safety. So we have 2 extra staff going out with our mobile markets so that only one person touches the produce, only one person touches the money, and everyone's able to remain social distancing while they are having their orders filled, and the same goes for at our market. So we are able to provide this higher level of sort of food safety and health safety than you would necessarily find at a supermarket, where everyone's just sort of walking around and trying to stay away from each other. And we are handing out masks to some of our customers who are having trouble accessing masks and hand sanitizers, so we're able to provide some public health support as well.
Okay, great. And you had said earlier in the show, or before we got online, that your community gardens are still open.
Mm-hmm.
right? And so people are still, is there more interest in the community gardens as people want to take control of their food supply, or what have you been seeing there?
Absolutely. So we shifted all of our gardener orientations to over the phone orientations to get new gardeners registered, and all of our returning gardeners have signed up and are set to go with what they need. We're filling seed orders for them. They're all given as a part of the program, and so people can come pick up seeds. And I think everyone was really happy this past weekend to have some sunshine on Saturday to get out into their garden plots and just sort of, I mean, I went and took my shoes off and sort of walked around and started to feel like it was hopefully summer soon.
Yeah.
So the gardening, I think, is going to be great this year.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for that. A little bit about what you're working on. And, you know, we've talked a little bit about the opportunities and challenges that you see due to this food security or insecurity that we've been seeing, or due to this pandemic, where people are wondering where do they get their food from? Maybe they're cooking more at home. Maybe they're wondering how they maybe sold to restaurants and now those are not open. What kind of opportunities and challenges do you see for any of our panelists in the near future, the next couple of months, for the farms or for yourselves or the farms you work with or your customers? What kind of opportunities and challenges are the biggest ones that you're finding?
Well, I think for challenges, it's at the markets, it's a lot of patience for people. To have to wait in some lines that are longer, and lines I think look longer than they are. I mean, when we have like 10 people in line, we can process that 10 people very quickly, but to them it looks like forever. So I think there's some challenges there that for just like general people coming out. And I think it's this problem everywhere. You know, I mean, you go in the grocery stores and there's lines painted on the ground to not step forward, and it makes the lines look a lot longer than normal. But opportunities, you know, I think there's definitely increased opportunities to just generally market to people if you have local products, because there's a demand for it. So I think for us, it's just been an opportunity for customers that maybe haven't shopped with us before to come get local product and see the quality, see the improvement from the local grocery store, just connect more with what's going on in their community than just what they were doing before in their little bubble.
Now, Robert, I know that your farm has worked with other farms. Can you talk about some of those opportunities when work with other products?
Yeah, so that's also a good point. Our networking has increased with other farms. We're in a lot of direct communication with some of our farm neighbors, some even from farther away, working on sourcing, working on finding things in this time, and doing group orders as usual. But it's just been a lot of trying to help other farms that have lost revenue from wholesale outlets that have closed down, like restaurants. Grocery stores have increased a little bit, but there is a lot of farms in this area that really pushed a lot to the city. And with all the restrictions down there, even grocery store sales have dropped in some places. And so, but it's mainly the restaurants, which is a huge portion of a lot of farms up in this area. So we've been trying to help some of them out, either get online, how we did our process, and help them get onto a similar process. So like there's another farm just in the neighboring county who's providing a lot of services to his area, like home deliveries, kind of going off what we did using the same software. And if they have extra produce, I mean, this provides for us an opportunity, because farmers markets are generally grower only markets, which is great. I mean, that protects the markets. It helps us with sales at the markets. But this home delivery and pickup stuff has allowed us to kind of collaborate with other growers and producers and include that all in kind of one bag for people to order, which helps other people's businesses if they don't have the facilities to do home deliveries and orders. And it helps us kind of give a little more value to the customers. And, you know we have a lot of customers that are just overwhelmed with figuring out how the heck they're going to order everything they need to come to their house, which seems silly, because you should be able to, but it's just, there's so many things you don't think about that you can't easily get delivered to your house that people are trying to work through.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, so opportunities, I've heard from other farmers that they've been able to collaborate. sell other products or focus more on their local markets if they were selling, things further away or some into the restaurant market. So good points there. Dayton, I know you mentioned some of your challenges with dairy and keeping cash flow and cash flow challenges. Are there opportunities that you're seeing?
Oh, great question. Well, I think as far as an opportunity, I think I agree with Mr. Arnold. I think this is going to be a huge opportunity for local food, just to boom. As far as challenges, I think I'll go back to challenges for a second. From the commodity side, and you've probably been reading about the supply chain for dairy products and for meats, pork and beef and poultry is just all out of whack. And from the dairy side, it's really because the demand just went away. The away from home demand just disappeared, basically because doors are closed and people aren't eating at restaurants. So that's the thing. So I guess what I would say from the commodity side is there's kind of a huge backup of product at the farm gate, and it needs a place to go. I think as I mentioned from the covering the meat side, as you're reading the processing plants are having to close down because of COVID, and so demand there is pretty good. They just can't get to the consumer. So the supply chain is kind of having a lot of trouble. As far as more opportunities, this is really forcing everybody to be their best, I think, in this situation. Yeah. Any questions on that or any?
What about employees for some of these farms that you work with? I mean, a lot of the H-2A visas or some of that, or keeping employees, or finding employees. Are you finding that as a challenge right now? Or have you heard that?
Well, I think just the biggest thing has been implementing protocols on farms for social distancing and for cleanliness and educating employees on the situation. I think that's the biggest thing that's happening. And I would say in general, farmers are doing a good job of that.
Yeah, definitely. Like Robert mentioned, farmers market is much more spread out, open air, the lines, and Marissa also said, one person for taking cash. I mean, there's a lot of new changes about keeping employees safe and customers to make sure that they feel like the food is safe and secure and they're not going to be impacted. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Marissa, what about you as far as challenges and opportunities at Capital Roots? You mentioned something about working with more farmers, offering produce for your programs.
Yeah, so I think that first and foremost, there's an opportunity here for us to really connect with more farmers, to provide them a new wholesale market opportunity. And with that comes the challenge of us building our capacity to be able to effectively coordinate bringing more farmers into our food hub and making sure that we're doing the best by them to get their products sold through our different channels. And then another challenge we're really facing is just having the staff energy and capacity to keep this operation running. We have about 33 staff, and a lot of their programs aren't really happening right now. Some of them aren't. So we've shifted them to be working in our food hub and to be going out on our mobile markets. Some people are used to sitting at their desk and doing more computer-based work and are dealing with some of the stress and the energy that is required to be moving food and selling food and dealing with customers. So I think everyone's risen to the occasion, but this is a stressful time and we also have to figure out ways to best support everybody through this process.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Have you found everyone here, farms are listed as an essential business, employees can still go, food distribution is still happening. I mean, have you found challenges with employees, being sick or not feeling comfortable working? I mean, like you mentioned, has that been an issue or not so much?
Absolutely, especially at the beginning when no one was really sure how hard the city of Troy was going to get hit, and we were just seeing what was happening in New York City. I mean, essentially, we're grocery store frontline workers in that sense of being exposed to a lot of people in a lot of different places, and needing the proper hand washing stations out on our mobile markets, which always had them, but weren't necessarily as like worried, like everyone's a lot more worried about being able to keep up the high food safety protocols that are needed. And I think at this point we've sort of settled into a nice new normal. And I've been noticing the energy has come back down a little bit, but without those changes that we were able to implement so quickly, I don't think that we would have had as much success there. Yeah. And then the other thing is also getting our customers used to the new system and encouraging them to be more patient and not stand so close together out at our mobile market stops. And we're going to see more customers and new customers and people with more limited budgets as we move through this process. And so it makes our services even more important. But could come with some challenges of keeping up with that demand and dealing with people who are facing more stress too.
Now, I mean, you also serve communities where people might take public transportation to get to the grocery store, or might take other ways to get there. I mean, are you seeing people thankful that you are still providing fresh produce through your mobile marts, or are they, you know, happy, excited, appreciative? I mean, it's got to be better than taking public transportation in some cases to get to a grocery store.
Absolutely. So car ownership is one of the most important factors for food security and healthy food access for our urban residents. And being nervous to take the bus or being immune compromised or vulnerable in that way makes getting on public transportation and going to a supermarket very risky. So our mobile market stops have been strategically placed before COVID and the pandemic, where there are high concentrations of people who are on limited to moderate incomes. So we stop at a lot of senior housing complexes and low-income housing apartment centers. And those folks are so happy to be able to continue to buy produce from us without having to even leave their property and their neighborhoods. We were in Mechanicville once a week, and when I went out, it was like the second week that New York went on pause. And this woman, it's at a senior apartment complex right next to the library. She's like, "What are you doing here? All of our services have shut down. You are the only people that are still coming to our senior housing complex. And I kind of expected that you wouldn't. And we're so grateful that you're here. I'm going to go tell all my friends." Like the bus the little trolley that used to take us to the pharmacy and the supermarket in Mechanicville stopped running. Like everyone forgot about us. And here you are in your little veggie truck with music playing, selling produce, and we're so happy that you're here, and that makes us feel like someone's paying attention.
Great, well, good. Glad that we have those services. And to, you know, to keep on this, keeping employees and customers safe, Robert, where did you get this information about what was the best practices for your farm? That way you could convince the customers that it was still safe to shop at farmers markets, and what you had to maybe do differently.
Well, we're on a lot of newsletters, you know, for the Market Federation, New York State. We're on a lot of listservs for both New York and Vermont. And I think most of the information came mainly from that, and just talking to people who, I mean, honestly, we have a lot of customers who are in the know of things or know what's going on or dealing with it, or we talk to farmers who dealt with it before it hit up here as hard and that kind of stuff. So a lot of our changes came from just general networking and keeping up with what was coming through on Facebook. A lot of customers will share us articles of things that they saw that might be pertinent to us. And so we kind of shifted pretty much weekly with whatever came through with new guidelines or, hey, you guys really need to be doing this, that kind of stuff. Specifically on like what we changed, we moved to the front of our table, and we started actually pulling produce for customers, and then putting in their bags, kind of without touching their bags. We couldn't take the bags from them. we could give them bags that are our bags, and most customers come with bags now. And then keeping them obviously 6 feet away from the table and a barrier between us and them, either a table or rope or those kinds of things. And then immediately our first week we shifted to keeping all the money at a different table and having one person manage that. And the last few weeks we've moved to, we don't even take money from people. It all goes in a crate, which means we had to actually triple the amount of cash and change we brought. So essentially the people who did handle money there isn't any reason they can't handle the produce as well, because they don't take in anything. There's nothing transacted with the customer. We only give stuff away. But it's just easier to keep that person running the money right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and Dayton, what about the farms you work with? What kind of information do they want about keeping their employees safe or their customers safe, or new farm handling?
Well, I think they look to Cornell to kind of say, well, what do we do? And the university has been really good at putting out a lot of kind of protocols and procedures and recommendations for what farmers should do. It's not any different than what Mr. Arnold just said or anything. It's, washing your hands, cleanliness, all that kind of stuff. So it's really just like I mentioned before, just protocols, communicating those protocols and helping employees do that, giving them, hand sanitizer, giving them the tools that they need to do this. So, and Kim, one thing I wanted to mention last time you said about opportunities, I was just thinking as you were talking, with regard to the commodity dairy industry, one of the things that this has done is really cooperatives have been looking at supply management programs. This is kind of, again, requiring them to look at that very seriously. So I think that's an opportunity. So.
Sure. I mean, and like you said, I mean, if there's a big difference when we talk about the commodity market, like milk, right? I mean, you don't have a lot of times it is not a brand, right? It all gets sold in bulk and it goes into a commodity market, and that is sold to large, like you said, lots of, to homes, but also to industry and restaurants and schools and things that are now closed. And what do you do in that point? I mean, but how do you, it's not like maybe you have a large following like the Arnolds at Pleasant Valley where they can reach out to every one of their customers and say, hey, we are still doing this. With a commodity product, I mean, it goes off and you don't really know what kind of milk you're getting or who your customers are.
Right.
And that can be challenging when people are looking for that connection, to find out if it's still safe or it's still available. Yep. But, I mean, my sister who lives in New Jersey, due to this pandemic, I mean, she is getting that in Kildare delivered to her doorstep. I mean, we've seen the return of some of these deliveries, of milk, right? Or things like that, as people still want to get reliable sources with a brand. But I mean, they've had some success there in delivery. She gets milk and eggs now, 200 miles south of here.
Yeah, I have heard that the at-home delivery has doubled for some companies, and I think Mr. Arnold said that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and people are looking at ways where they can get delivery, not have to go to the store, but still have nourishing food and local food. Now, and Dayton, where are farmers coming to you when they're looking for help? I know we talked about the PPP program and the CARES Act, and now I've seen people talking about the USDA Farm Box type of program. Are people coming to you to help navigating that, or how is that working? I know that they have to go to their lender to get the loan, but are people asking for help with record keeping or supplying that? How are you telling people to get that type of how are you telling farms how to get that economic relief?
Now, is your question with regard to the PPP or?
The PPP or any other economic relief programs that they might be available for?
Yeah, so I guess I have a pretty good relationship with a lot of farmers in our region, so they have been reaching out to me. PPP's been a big one. They've been reaching out. The federal government did offer some insurance programs previously, so some of the farmers that signed up for that are really glad that they did, because it's just like your auto insurance or your your homeowner's insurance. It's a pain until you need it. So they're glad that so they're glad they spent the money. I haven't. I'm aware of the foods, the food box situation. I haven't had any calls on that. I haven't been in on that too much, and again, it's just back to, again, the majority of the work I've been doing is just budgeting, trying to manage the remainder of this year and figuring out where the losses are gonna be filled. And like we said, the lenders are pretty willing to, at least that's our impression so far, willing to help in this scenario.
Yeah, and I mean, to all small businesses, I've been emphasizing, with the PPP program and business planning, like keeping good records, right? Because when the first wave hit, you already had to have, your scheduled C for 2009, right? I mean, different things that you needed. What can you talk a little bit more about some of the business fundamentals that you would emphasize for small farms or agricultural businesses that would help during this time, with economic relief, or just keeping good records or budgeting, or
I mean, yeah, good records are the cornerstone to kind of everything you do. So we really got to have a history of what you've been doing and be able to use that history to predict the future. So if you don't have that, it's really difficult to manage forward. I mean, we can piece together some things and do the best we can, but it's not as useful as if you've kept good records or that's your practice, that you keep good records. So we need those to kind of predict the future.
Yeah, and are most people, back of the envelope records? Are you encouraging Excel, QuickBooks, or other software? I mean, how do you suggest businesses keep records?
I'm a QuickBooks person. I really think that's really valuable. A lot of farms I work with use that. So and again, it's all over the board. Some are shoebox record keepers and others are, I'm there 5 minutes and they have everything. Here you go. This is what you need. They know. So yeah. So
Kim, can we ask that question overall, sort of for each of you? I've noticed that a lot of people, as they're starting to pivot and as they're starting to shift, they've implemented new technologies in their business. Have any of you implemented a new technology that's helping you to kind of pivot through this? No? Okay.
Oh, Brandon, the fact that I'm here wearing this headset talking to you means I've made great strides.
Hey, I'll take it, Dayton.
This is like serious upgrade for me.
Yeah, it looks good on you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, that's good. No, I mean, right? I mean, that new technology, I mean, Zoom meetings, we're all here on a virtual meeting, right? That's how people are dealing with, they're talking to bankers or online platform. Even the PPP is on an online portal. We have to upload documents to that. Robert talked about, what's the name of the online ordering you use again? Farm Find?
Local line it's
Local
new
line.
for us, but everything else has just seen us use it more, whether it's Google Sheets, Airtable, Square, credit card processing. All those things are all just increased usage, nothing new for us.
Yeah, I've noticed that a big one that's coming up is like PayPal and Venmo, because there's no charge. So
I always question the Venmo usage because it's not really made for business. It's kind of interesting how many people, it's like, you take Venmo, I'm like, well, no, it's not really a business platform. You could get flagged, kind of thing.
What about at Capital Roots, Marissa?
We've really got this new thing going called phone ordering, which we never actually did before at our office, but people can call ahead and place a phone order for our market so that they have their order ready when they get here and they don't have to wait. Sometimes even if they want contactless, we will place the food on a table outside of our office and then they can come and pick it up. And so it's funny because we have an online marketplace that runs through an online farmers market called LFM, and those orders have increased both our retail and our wholesale, but we have also been pushing these same day orders over the phone and have had a lot of people just picking up the phone and giving us a phone call. And I hope that we're able to handle the phone order volume increase before we have to find a new program. But I find that at this point, we're so busy that trying to figure out a new technology it might be not quite the right time because it takes energy to also implement and bring a new system online when everything seems to be maxed out. But if it is the new normal, we have to adjust and figure out a way to move forward the most efficiently.
Now, did Marissa or Robert, did either of you apply for any economic relief programs or looking at any of the other government programs that are out there to help support your business?
Yeah, we applied for the PPP and that was submitted right when the applications opened. And as we do our farm outreach, we'll be helping point people in the direction and hoping that they get the support that they need for that as well.
Okay.
We did not. We didn't. I don't think we would have qualified even if we did, because we didn't lay off anybody or have any risk of laying off anyone. We tried to hire a few more people, move some to full-time. It's tough to find market workers. Some of our market crew were older and they decided that the risk was too great, which was fine. So having to kind of rely on some younger folks, and even college students didn't want to come to the market and work because they go home and live with their parents. So it was more of a challenge to find workers, which wasn't really something you could apply for.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, we got a couple questions up, Brandon, if we want to take a few right now.
Sure. So the first hand I had up was Lori Benson. Are you still on, Lori?
Okay, Lori.
Okay. My question is primarily for Dayton, since he's the one of the panelists who deals with animal ag probably more than anybody else on the panel. Mental health awareness and suicide prevention hotlines for your dairy and beef producers, since they are really getting nailed. What's available?
I think, Lori, the best resource that I can recommend is FarmNet. They have, they're very good at that. So New York FarmNet, it's associated with Cornell University. In my previous work as a lender, I communicated with them occasionally, and they're very helpful. They have protocols in place, and they'll, if somebody's in that situation, they can be on the farm within maybe the afternoon or the next morning. They're very good at doing that. So I would say FarmNet is the best place to look.
Thank you.
Yep,
Lori,
you're welcome.
I just posted the link to the resource that Dayton is talking about in the chat box as well.
Okay, thank you.
The next hand we had up was Tim Cherbachkoy.
Unmute. Okay. Hopefully I'm unmuted. Yeah, change is always coming, and this is really accelerated and kind of radically, rejiggered change. My question's about the future and what is going on now or starting to go on now in your businesses that is actually maybe good. Maybe you'd like to keep some of these things, develop these things further in the future because they're going to provide a way of working that's just better than the way it's been. There's two phases to that. One is the next couple of years where we're probably not going to be out of the woods very soon. But then beyond that, it's going to be a whole new landscape. So I'm wondering what kinds of things are good that's happening now that you want to keep and develop.
I think for us in our nonprofit, we're really honing in on our essential food access services and how important they are to our community, just because we're seeing such an increase in customer demand. And I don't think that we can expect these customers, most of them, to change their shopping habits when it's over. So how can, it's been so amazing and wonderful to see new faces and have new people really change their shopping habits. They're not going to a large box store or a supermarket. They're seeking out a alternative way of purchasing food. And the more that we can connect with them with local product and really push that into the forefront year round, I think it's something we won't ever have to think about going back from. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Marissa on that. We're the year-round. I mean, we've been growing year-round since 2006, and that's when markets started to move towards that. And it's always interesting to see that to say to people, yeah, we have more produce in the winter sometimes than we do in the summer. We have almost 40 products on our table for most of December, January, into February. In the summertime, it can be somewhere down to half that, depending on what it is, just because there's so many things we can store and grow in the wintertime. And keeping those people interested in coming to the market all winter has always been something that has been a challenge. Sometimes markets move locations, but we're feeling that the connectedness we have with our customers now on a weekly basis with these online platforms, with them pre-ordering, it gives us a very sure way of actually keeping them week to week, to the point where they may not even realize that it's winter now, and all of a sudden they're still ordering produce that they've been doing for all summer that they haven't ever in the past. But we're pretty much predicting that this home delivery thing is going to stick around. People are going to be excited to use it and like the convenience. You know, we actually have just put out a survey asking our customers just that question, and I'd have to say that probably 80% said this service is great. We'll continue to use it even afterwards. They like the option to come to the market, but they would like to have the option to also order and stuff like that. And you know, that's definitely important for us.
Great.
Yeah, Tim, I'll try to answer your question. I think with regard to, well, I've been so immersed in dairy for the last few months that, as I previously mentioned, I think supply management or a way to influence supply and is something the industry is seriously looking at. Obviously, we'd like more demand, but we can't count on that. I think that it's really a time when farm managers become their best managers. And I know that's kind of anecdotal, but that's really the situation. And just a general little thing is technology. I mean, I've been having profit team meetings with farmers like this. So I have a meeting with a farmer on Friday, and we're going to review his finances, and we're going to do a Zoom meeting just like this. So everybody's having to, you know, uptick their technology skills to keep doing their job. So I think that's positive too.
What are you telling Dayton? What are you telling these dairy and beef farm and meat farmers? What are you telling them? I mean, besides just hang on and hold on to your cash and let's budget. I mean, what are you telling them to pivot? Or what are the options?
Yeah, I really think it's a case-by-case basis, and I think it has a lot to do with the financial position of the business going into the situation. So, you know, if they really had a strong balance sheet going in and had a lot of liquidity and a lot of working capital, they might get through this without a lot of dings. But if it's a business that's already very compromised, you know, that used up equity over time because of loss of earnings and just eroded the balance sheet, this may be a time for them to exit. I mean, that's the reality of it. You know, before they leave with below zero equity. You know, so.
As in try to sell the business or at least sell, you know, the cow or the animals. I mean, what do you
Yeah, so the challenge with that is once you sell your income producing assets, you still have obligations. Like if you still own the farm, you still have land taxes, you still have insurance, you still have those things. So the transition kind of has to be thought of in that fashion. How do we supplement the next step of income, whether we transition to a beef farm from a dairy or haying or something like that, just to supplement income. That's the biggest challenge once those income producing assets are gone. I have heard, this is hearsay, right? 50 people listening, which means the whole country is listening, right? Everybody can hear us now, right? But
Being recorded, Dayton.
Yeah, right. I know.
It's anecdotal. We'll say it's anecdotal.
Yeah, I have heard that some cooperatives, or maybe one cooperative, or maybe no cooperatives, right? Let's just say, are offering farms to buy the production base from other farms. So, for example, if a farmer wanted to go out of business, a dairy farmer, the neighbor could buy their production base. So essentially, the cooperative would be receiving no more supply. It'd just be from one farm instead of, you know, so consolidation. And that offers the farmer that is ready to get out maybe a little better price for what he could than he could normally expect for his assets.
Mhm.
So, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, other questions? Brandon, do we have any other questions right now?
Yep, the next hand that was up was Jamie.
Hello. So I have a quick question, probably for Dayton, and then I have one for Marissa. In regards to the dairy farmers, I know we live fairly close to Battenkill Farm, and we inquired a couple of years ago if they would deliver to us. They deliver only to the wealthy communities. Now, I'm not opposed to going to a location, doing a no contact pickup, things like that, or are farmers discussing things of that sort? Because we go to a meat farm in Putney, Vermont, who they happen to be friends of ours. And we do a complete and total no contact pickup with them. I pay her via PayPal and pick up my items. She knows what time I'll be there. So I'm wondering, are the dairy farmers considering anything like that? Because I absolutely abhor going into a grocery store. I would much prefer to get farm fresh milk and get it from the farmer versus Stewart's or Price Chopper or any other location like that.
Yeah, great. That's a great question. So the challenge is basically on the commercial dairies, what we have is a raw milk product. And those commercial dairies don't have processing facilities there. So well, Battenkill obviously does, and they've kind of removed themselves from the commodity market. But with no processing facilities, they really can't offer you a product to buy. So that's kind of the challenge they're up against. They're basically producing it and sending it to a processor. So that's a situation. However, as you mentioned, Battenkill does process their own, which there's only a few of those, limited number of dairy farms doing that. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So they'd like to, but they can't.
Right. Gotcha.
And
So
just to add on there
like
too
this
for you.
pandemic might bring upon the thought that they might get processing equipment.
Boy, it's just so capital intense to do that, and
Right.
I haven't heard that. I haven't heard any discussion of that.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And my question, Marissa, was you had mentioned seeds, and so my question was, are the seeds organic? Are they non-GMO? What is the deal with your seeds that you do supply your farmers with, or they purchase from you? I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, thanks for your question. So we solicit seed donations for our community gardening program specifically, and those come from seed companies, both local companies and larger companies, usually at the end of their seed selling season. And those are available for free for our community gardening program and the gardeners in our program. We have about 900 gardeners that work with us at the 55 gardens in the area. Some of our seeds are organic. Most of the vegetable and herbs are non-GMO, just because that's what's available. And so, but they're not all certified organic. Our gardens are managed organically. No pesticides are allowed, but all of the food that is grown in our community gardens are kept by the gardeners. So our community gardens is a separate program from our food hub and our food distribution. And so we're literally just providing space for people in urban areas to grow and harvest and keep all of their own food.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Jamie, the other thing that I would add too is that I've noticed that some of the dairy farmers who do have processing plants on site are starting to partner up with some of these pickup places. So for example, Bunker Hill has partnered with the Canal Street Marketplace in Fort Edward. So you can order online and do a contactless pickup on Thursdays between noon and 2. So I think some of it's going to be trying to find that information about who has those processing plants on site. Another one being King Dairy, Battenkill, Bunker Hill, those types of places. I think you're going to notice that they're going to start doing more of that contactless pickup out of their own stores on site or partnering with somewhere like the Canal Street Marketplace.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Sure, and I threw the link to the Canal Street Marketplace in the chat as well if anyone wants to take a look. Kim, and I recognize that we're past 7 o'clock, so if anyone needs to jump off, we won't be offended if people want to stay on. But those are all the hands that I have up at this point, so whatever you want to do next, Kim, up to you.
Okay, well, I mean, thank you for those questions. No one here has a crystal ball and knows exactly what, like Tim alluded to, what's going to happen in the future in the next 6 to 9 months. But what kind of advice do you have for these new farmers, maybe graduating from our agricultural business degree program or wanting to get started in agriculture, or are you telling them to ramp up? Are you telling some farmers to hold steady? I mean, what kind of advice are you giving people now, given this uncertainty? Or what kind of regulations do you wish would change to make it easier for people to buy local and get local food and support these farmers?
Well, I can answer that question off the bat. We're kind of an interface for a lot of young farmers. You know, I mean, we're actually bringing on one of your students as an intern this summer. But our advice is the time is now. Local products in demand. We can't supply it all. I mean, that's, you know, there are some questions about like, why can't you deliver here? Why can't you do this? Well, we already have exceeded what we can grow in our plot. And so like, you know, I saw something that popped up, said, you know, it says, hey, can you tell us what you're doing so we can send more what you're doing to other people? And we're like, no. Try to find other farmers who need it. We try to let people know about other farmers who need it, but that's the demand. I've been talking to Vermont growers where there's a lot more unrest with the closure of farmers markets and all that kind of stuff. And they're getting bribes saying, we'll give you 10% more if you sell to our store, and like people demanding that they be added on the CSA list when they're full and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of opportunity for young growers to grow a little more, to ramp up, to get started. And I mean, this is a great time to jump in because the demand is there for you. Like that initial step with the actual like marketing side of things is a lot easier right now because people are looking for it. They're sitting at home trying to find food. Like you're in no better position than that. And, you know, on top of that, I will go back to what Dayton said, keeping records. If you currently are growing, keeping records is absolutely the top thing. That's we track everything from how much of the home delivery is making us versus the standard markets and comparing it to the past and all that kind of stuff. And that's key. I mean, because yeah, you could get started and you have this demand, but if you don't keep any records at all and you don't know what you did, and then the demand drops, you could be all of a sudden preparing for something that doesn't happen anymore. So it's key to kind of do a good job running the business while meeting the demand so you can prepare for when things change. And then, yeah, that's kind of where we're telling people right now.
Great. Thank you. Dayton.
Yeah, I would just add that there's this old saying that if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. So that kind of goes along with records. I would say now whenever you get into business, you like to spend less money on getting in, right? You want your capital costs up front to be lower. So now's a good time. You know, interest rates are low. Your upfront cost of getting in is going to be low. So now's the time. Yeah, I agree.
Do you think we're going to move Dayton to regulations for animal products where people can maybe buy a half of a cow without having it to go through a USDA facility? Do you think, have you heard any of that type of thing as people are maybe looking for creative ways to work around some of the supply chain issues?
Yes, I have heard of people trying to work around that, but I still don't know if you're going to get around the inspection. I don't think that you will, but people are talking about it. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's maybe a way, you know, to help that bottleneck there with the processing.
Yeah, and like I said in the beginning, I think this, and everybody here is kind of echoing the statement that local foods is, you know, going forward going to be a hot place to be.
Hot place to be. What about you, Marissa? Any advice to our new or farmers or veteran farmers, or how they can pivot, or what you see in the future here?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that's helped us in our food sales and driving more people to our services has been social media. We've always had a social media presence, but our Instagram stories and our Facebook posts have really driven a lot of customers to our markets because people are home and they're online, and none of the like usual social media patterns seem to be a thing anymore. Like, we're in this whole new realm of when is the ideal time to post and what should I talk about? Like, all of that's out the window. And so we've been really focusing on just letting people know we're here, sharing pictures of people's faces, even if when they have their masks on, which we're all wearing all the time when we're interacting with each other, and just like trying to also make it sort of fun and pretty with produce porn and beautiful flowers, and letting people know about our services. And it's really been successful. So taking advantage of people being at home and on their computers in creative new ways, I think has been really successful from our marketing perspective.
Yeah, and a skill, Brandon and I were talking about it earlier, a skill that you can maybe learn in this downtime, or if you're a new graduate, or there's always people hiring in those things where you can work remotely and still be part of the food businesses or marketing, agriculture businesses or marketing farms. Great. We have one hand. Nick, are you still here with a comment?
Yeah, I would just say on the kind of the ag growth side, on the Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District, we're not known for our large farms in Warren County, but since this has occurred, I would say that's been the biggest change in my daily workload is farm expansion and new farms coming in. Some of that is farms just getting started in the very beginnings of planning stage. And then other farms that we've been working with for 8 years planning on expanding. And in Warren County, the majority of the farms I work with are mixed vegetable. And it's been nice to see, but it certainly seems to be growing.
How are they marketing there, Nick? Direct to consumer, or markets, or online, or what are you seeing there?
So we have a kind of unique little market in Warren County. So some of our more northern farms, they have their own kind of little online markets for second homeowners. And so up there, I haven't heard a huge uptick, but from just the community. So usually they're used to the online ordering. A lot of our farms in the north, around going up from Brant Lake up to Scroon Lake, that area. But down south, I just know direct to purchasing from the farm has jumped, and they've had a lot of calls and a lot of questions and a lot of outreach, which is great to hear.
Good. Well, great. Well, thank you for that. I do think we'll see, more people, like one of the silver linings in this COVID-19 pandemic has been this emphasis on more local food and more people wanting to buy local and support farms and know where their food's coming from, and wanting to be able to not have to go to the grocery store, like Jamie said, or being able to find nourishing food, healthy food in a different way or a different medium, and support these farm businesses as they remain essential and they remain open. And, we can't live without food. We've been talking about that since the beginning of time, right? Food, people think about it. So I just want to say thank you to all of our panelists. I know we're over the time. I don't know if anyone has any other questions, but just thank you for listening. Thank you for our panelists for being here, for all the services you provide, and to the Office of Business Central at SUNY Adirondack for hosting this discussion. We'll be back next week for one on tourism and hospitality industry. But Dayton and Robert and Marissa, can you just tell us where we can find you if people have other questions, or where to find your services?
Yeah, so I'm part of the Capital Area Agriculture and Horticulture Program with Cornell Cooperative Extension. We cover a 6-county region. So if you just Google search that, you'd find it, no problem. My email is dtm4@cornell.edu. So, and on that all the time.
Thank you, Dayton.
For Pleasant Valley Farm, we have a website. It's pvfproduce.com. You can go in there, check out our farm. I've updated a bunch of stuff on there. See our farm store, get on our waiting list if you're interested in actually getting home deliveries or pre-order pickups, which we offer a number of locations for pickups at the markets, and then another one over in Argyle Greenwich. The farmers markets are, they're a great place to shop. You don't have to sign up for anything. You can go. There's lots of vendors. The Saratoga market has great spacing at the mall. It's a great location for what we have to deal with right now. And we're even at the mall just because the normal pavilions can't support us right now, regardless of all this virus stuff. For me personally, if you want to email me, my email is robert@smartfarminnovations.com. But you can always reach out to us through the farm website as well.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. And Marissa, and some of your programs and opportunities down in Troy at Capital Roots.
Yeah, so you can learn about our food access services on our website, www.capitalroots.org. Our retail programs serve Albany, Schenectady, Saratoga, and Rensselaer counties. Our produce market, you can call our office and look at our market menu online to place an order or just stop by. We're also having a plant sale right now throughout the month of May at our office. So come by and buy some pretty plants. And if you want to connect with me personally, my email is foodassessment@capitalroots.org. You can find that also on our website. Any farmers or food-based businesses that are looking for new wholesale opportunities throughout this time period, please send them my way. We would love to connect with them and have a conversation.
Great, great. Another great opportunity for young farmers or people starting or pivoting to get their products into more markets and to more wholesale opportunities. Thank you. Everybody, thank you very much. Brandon, do we have anything else we need to add here? But stay safe, stay healthy, eat local. Thank you.
You got it. That's it. Thank you all so much.
Well, we appreciate you, Marissa, Robert, and Dayton. Thanks very much for answering our questions.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking.
Okay, and we will try to connect with all of you and see what you're doing next in a couple more weeks as it keeps going and progressing out there. But we'll check in maybe via an email and email it out to the rest of this group just to say what new things have happened or have come up or where you're at maybe in a couple weeks, if that's okay.
Sounds good. We'll see where it all goes.
Yeah, and we'll get you the link to the video so you can share it, watch it and relive it or whatever else you'd like to do in your own time, but we'll get you those links too.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for participating tonight.
You're welcome,
Thank
Brandon.
you. This was great.
All together.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, let's see if I can.
All right, I can end it for everyone. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.